All right. I think we could probably get started. We'll admit people as they come in, but we're also going to be recording this. So if you're listening to this on recording, I'm sorry you couldn't make it. We missed you, and I hope you get as much out of this as we hope you do, both for the people that are here and the people that are listening afterwards. So today we're going to talk to you about turning your Salesforce org into a document sharing platform with FileViewer. So obviously that's what we see here. Down to the next one. So today we're going to focus on a few things. We're going to talk about what FirmWorks is and who we are and why we do what we do. Just really quick, we're going to talk about what public links in Salesforce are and how they work. And right about then, we're going to hop into an org to kind of show everybody what's going on and exactly what public links are like in a live environment. Next, we're going to move through how FileViewer helps with public links. So after we talk about like the limitations of public links on the platform, we're going to talk about how we can help you use it to use the public links to make it more of a like general document sharing environment instead of just what it is now. Then we're going to do a live build. We're going to build a FileViewer flow that shares public links automatically. And then we're going to show a use case for standardized documentation and opportunities. Then we're going to have a quick Q&A. So let's go into why public links are important, or actually, sorry, what FirmWorks is. So FirmWorks is a company that we formed with a bunch of smart, intelligent people, and we work really closely with a lot of customers and a lot of consultant firms to kind of understand what people are having trouble with and see if we can build those things into deployable solutions for folks that want to not have to like build everything from scratch. If it's a common problem, we're trying to solve it. So we really want to make sure that people can use Salesforce the way that they want to, as opposed to the way that sometimes Salesforce forces you to use it because it's limited. This is going to be really important when we talk about files and public links. I'm Kyle Hagan. I've been working in Salesforce for a while, like 6 or more years now. I can never remember the number, but if it's more than 5, it's more than 5. So I've done a lot of stuff. I've worked with document generation companies. I've worked in managing creation of orgs on the fly. I've done consulting now for a few years, a little bit here and there. So, and I'm the product owner of a lot of the FirmWorks products. So I'm going to talk to you about all this stuff today because I'm the one that knows the most about it at the moment, and I want to share that knowledge with you. So, oh, that's not where we're at now. What we're going to do now is we're going to hop into the org, and I'm going to talk to you about public links and why they're important and generally like what they're used for. So a public link, oops, sorry, let me get back up on the presentation here. So a public link is something you can generate from a file itself. If you click on a file here, you can click this public link button and you can create the public links from here. Public links are pretty useful. You can after you acknowledge that this public link needs to be like it can be used by anybody you send it to. You can use this link to share documents outside your platform. So something that exists on Salesforce, something that exists on Salesforce can be shared externally to Salesforce without people having to like authenticate or go through a portal or something like that. Salesforce hosts those things for the people that need to see them. So when this loads, you'll see that document that we're just looking at. They get it shared, they can download it, but ultimately it's stored in one place and it's not being sent through email or anything like that, which leads me into why public links are really helpful and useful from the perspective of sharing documentation. So first and foremost, you get the control of the document when you're using public links. So whatever the source is, whatever generated that public link is what will be what the customer sees. So if you need to have a very fixed message in your documentation that is fully supported with public links, it doesn't require people to go to their like local library or SharePoint or somewhere to find the most recent version. It's always here and it's always this link. It's a one-stop shop for like improving too. So if you do need to have like a new version, you just basically like upload the new version, create the new link, and distribute that as necessary. If you do end up pushing something out of your system or sending something to a customer that's not really what you meant to send, you can very quickly resolve that by deleting the link And then when you delete this link, if you try to go in and open it, it will give you errors. So really quickly, you can handle the kind of problems that you might have with somebody like I do this too, has typos or something of the nature of incorrect information. You don't want that getting out to customers' hands. You can control that using public links by deleting them, or instead of having an attachment somewhere and living and breathing outside of your system. You can also see if a document's been viewed. So if we dig in even further into this document, you can see like light information about what's been looked at. That's a really important thing with public links, because you want to see if your files are getting engaged with. If you send something out and no one ever looks at it, do you really need to send it out, is kind of the crux of that. Public links also help you get around file size limitations. So when you are sending a public link, it's not going to add an attachment, which means you can send like hundreds of public links at once. And normally there's email size limits for things that you would be sending if the document was, like a huge PDF. You wouldn't be able to send that and 4 other documents in a single email. A public link gets around that. And finally, it also helps on the side of like the storage. So when you get an email from somebody and it has 15 or 20 attachments and it's a huge email, like you have to store that locally, and using a public link makes it so you really don't have to worry about doing that stuff, or your customers don't have to worry about storing that stuff locally anymore. They just click on it and you're using your Salesforce storage to kind of leverage the like source control for that. All right, so let's talk about what the limitations with public links are. So they're great. They are really useful, and they kind of mimic the OneDrive, Google Drive kind of mentality of sharing documents with people who are not necessarily in your system. But one of the things we really can't do here is we can't have more than one link. So if we have a link that needs to be used for one team and a different link that needs to be used for another team, like maybe we don't want them to be the same thing. And that comes into importance when we talk about what we can additionally kind of want with these public links. It'd be great if we could expire them, or maybe if we could set a password, or have some limitations around who can use the link and when. And that is another shortfall of a public link the way it is in Salesforce right now, is no expiration dates automatically or even after the fact. No like passwords. You can't password protect people accessing it. So if you're sending them something that you might deem as sensitive, they just kind of have access to it. And anybody that has access to that link will also have access to it. Putting a password in place can mitigate some of that risk. And you can't have more than one link if you do need to have different use cases for links. You also really don't get, like we said, there's viewing the documents and downloads. You don't really get that per se as well as you could. I mean, right now we're just seeing who viewed and downloaded, but not when, not the last time it was viewed, which can be really helpful when you're trying to mitigate those kind of misinformation issues that you might have with documents. So let's kind of talk about how FileViewer helps with this scenario here. When we're talking about generating public links, FileViewer is a really good tool for aiding the use of public links. So we're not going to talk too much about the whole thing for FileViewer, but what I do want to say is that generally FileViewer is trying to pull documents and content versions and files up to the forefront of Salesforce. So they're treated more like objects, like primary objects, like account and opportunity, instead of things where you just set it and forget it when you put files into your system. In addition to that, we really emphasize the idea of using fields on the content version to tag and organize your documents. So being able to easily add metadata to your files can help you easily in the backend find what you need. So if we tag our stuff with a certain pick list values or checkboxes, we can use that to use FileViewer to filter those things and find stuff easily, whether it be on an individual record or through our entire org. So I'm not going to go too much more deep into FileViewer as it is. If you want to know more, please set up some time with us and we can talk about FileViewer as a product that can help you with other things. Today, we're going to be focusing mostly on the public links section. So right here, this public link UI is already like bounds and above what we get with Salesforce. We get a lot of options here. Let me get rid of some of these real quick. We get a lot of options here for building new public links. So if we want to build a new one, we can set a title. So maybe we want our sales team to have a specific type of link they can use. They don't need a password because they're sending it to people that are prospects, or maybe they do need a password because they're sending it to people prospects. And we don't want these to expire. So we're going to click create link with options. And we see down here, now we have a link and a password. We have a title, and we also can see how many views there are. So if I copy this link and paste it up here, it's going to ask me for a password. And that password is going to be associated right here with the link itself. So I can use that password to, oops, that's not the right password. Let's see. I can use that password to get into this document. And I can see that file. So otherwise I wouldn't be able to see it. That's kind of how the password stuff works with file viewers. We can limit who can see that using a password. If we do need another link, maybe for our TCS team, and we know that the people who work with the TCS team are customers, so we don't need a password on it, but they don't need it forever. So we're going to expire that at a certain time. So maybe we'll expire it in a month, like it says here. We can create that link. And now we have 2 use cases for this. Not only can we see someone who viewed the last link and when, we can also see the new link we have. We can provide a copy, a link to the actual document, or a download link, which will cause you to download it. And you can see when it expires and when it gets viewed. So just for the sake of it, let's actually copy the download link. We'll get that downloaded. That's coming up here. Get downloaded. And when we come back to our FileViewer UI, we can click apply. And then that'll refresh the page. And we can see there's multiple views and downloads here now. And our links are updating appropriately as necessary. So this is fantastic. This is fantastic when you need to do 1 or 2 documents at a time. But if you want to get a bunch at once, we do have the support for that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these links right now so we can show mass link creation. The big idea is you could potentially set a filter or search criteria on the left here. So let's say I only want to see stuff that has the multi-select value of like blue, or maybe in your use case, it's external share only documents. We can see now that it's filtered out that 4th document. There's only 3 here, and they all have blue as a multi-select pick list value. Now that we have our set of documents, we can use these actions over here to create public links. So I'm going to click create public links. It's going to run through, and I'm going to refresh this page. And if we come over here now, we can see that we have links for all of these created from one button click. Now, alternatively, if I need to remove links, I can filter down or filter up certain files, and I can remove them like I did earlier in the thing when I wanted to clear out my demo data. And I could also create password protected links with this button. Expiration date is not currently supported here, but we can do password protected links. So you click with password, and ta-da, bada boom, bada bing, you get your password protected link. So it's nice that we could do that. Mass actions are great, especially if you have like hundreds of files, or maybe even 10 files, it gets really crazy. But using these, you have to click in these tabs. So there's also an additional feature here where we can download the data that we're looking at currently. And what this will do is it'll take all the tags you have in metadata, so all the stuff we have in this details tab and more, and the link itself. And we'll be able to, let me get this over here, see those fields here. So we get some information on the records themselves, and we get view links here. So you can see that we have the link and the password. If we did it without a password, it would be a view link and a download link. So you can have that information. So if you do have hundreds of records, you can kind of use Excel, if you're more familiar, to kind of suss through the data and get the information you need for the documents that you want to see. All right, let me get a drink of water real quick and we'll keep going. So next, what we're going to talk about is, once we have this idea of generating public links in mass, we don't necessarily want to have to like use the UI to do it every time. Maybe we want to do it for like tons of documents or all the documents on the fly. So we want to start automating the creation of these public links instead of having to click in here manually. So we can do that. FileViewer does support and have a invocable action and a flow that will create or obtain the public links that exist for files that are on specific records or as part of specific record sets. So we're going to use the next part of the demo or the webinar to like build out a quick version of this flow so you can see how it works. And then we're going to move on to show you like a more advanced version of the flow that I've already built that will show you how we can use FileViewer in this flow that we just built with more business logic integrated into it. So we'll click on flow. So the next part of the demo, I should preface this, is going to be pretty flow heavy. So we're going to still see some FileViewer specific stuff, but we are going to see lots of things that are specific to flow. If you're not familiar with flow, you're going to have a crash course right now. If you are familiar with flow, then, judge me as you will on my flow technique, and please let us know in the chat if you have any suggestions for my flows. But yeah, so we're going to click on new flow. We're going to build a screen flow because we're going to associate it with an action. So I'm going to create screen flow here. I'm going to add my first initial screen. I want someone to be able to see what they're going to see when they click this button. It's going to be, I'm just going to call a lot of this test because test is easier than, doing other things. Test intro. And then we're going to display some text here. Test message. Here we're just going to say clicking next will send an email that will contain public links to all of the files on this account. All right, now we have our message there. We're done with that. You can do as much as you want right here. You don't have to really follow exactly what I'm doing here. You don't even technically have to have a screen at the front, but I like to do this as a personal preference to make sure people know what they're about to do. Just hiding some erroneous stuff. So the next step is going to be to use a little trick in Salesforce to get the account that we're going to be running from so we can know what the context for our flow is going to be. So I'm going to do get records here. We're going to call it get account. And we're going to do the account object. We will basically be getting the account whose ID is the one that's passed into this flow. And this little trick from Salesforce you can do is if you create a variable in a flow, a screen flow or record trigger flow, I think it's just screen flow actually, record ID. And then you basically make it a text type and you make it input. Salesforce will know if you use it in an action or a button to like pass the flow, the ID of the record you're clicking on into this record ID variable. So when we pass that into this ID, we'll get the account that we're on. So basically, when we run this for the demo, we're going to get the Atmos Energy Corporation account once we're all said and done. Next, we're going to talk. This is the FileViewer action we're going to add next. So the FileViewer action is called. I like to type fetch because it is called fetch public links, but it's called get public links for files, or the API name is our namespace fetch files public links. So I'm going to click that, and then I'm going to click get public links. I'm going to type get public links, not get it. For the record ID, we're going to use the account that we found, the one that we are clicking from. The record ID parameter can be either a record that you want to get all the files from, a content version that you would like to send a public link for, or a content document you'd like to send the latest version of a public link for. So any of those will work here. You can only pass a single record ID into this though at the moment. You can have an expiration date set here. So we'll see later on in our flow for afterwards, or our flow that we're going to show a little bit later. The expiration date can be for something dynamic. You could technically just put like today's date if you wanted to with the flow current date. But whatever you do here, you can turn that on to add the expiration date. 1 second. The next one we can do is FileViewer configuration. So without getting too deep into what a FileViewer configuration is, it's basically a way to help you utilize FileViewer components in a more advanced way. So configurations will help drive consistency and advanced function for the basic FileViewer components. FileViewer works without you having to set up configurations, but configurations can try to filter down data. They can get you a more specific data set. They can show your end users specific fields you want them to use or things you want to filter on. So we can utilize this in this case to filter a set of records from the account. So if we only want the external stuff like I showed earlier, or the blue pick list, or maybe only stuff that has a date that's earlier than today, whatever, the FileViewer configuration gets set up somewhere else, and then you can reference it here. We're not going to do that in the scenario today. You can also create a link title. So just similar like we did before, sales, TCS, you can create those titles here. You can password protect link. I am going to do this because I do want these to be password protected. And you can also return the most recent link. So this part here is really, really cool because if it has a link already, we don't need to just keep generating links over and over again. So that would be a little ridiculous, specifically if we didn't have different cases for each link. So if we say get most recent link is true, we can actually have it be like, oh, okay, well, you have a link already for this file. We're not going to create another one. We're just going to get that one. If you have it as false, which is what I'm going to leave it as now, it'll create a new one every time it runs this. So that's that. Other than this, there's all the other flow stuff you have, but these are our input values for this action. So now that we've set that up, we're basically going to pass this information into our get public links action, and it's going to spit out a bunch of public links for us. So what we're going to do next is we're going to loop over the returned values from that. So I'm going to say loop over public links. And then we're going to say, I want to get the stuff from the get public links action that I just created, and I want to get the links out of it. And then what we're going to do in here is a little bit of a tricky thing that you can do with email templates and text inside of a flow. We're going to assign some values from that loop into like a body of an email so we can get an iterative list of our public links. So we're going to call this assign public link text to bar. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to create a new resource that's called email body. It's just going to be a text field. We're not going to do any of the other stuff there. And then we're going to add a formula field we're going to create using each of the links. It's as we go through them. So we're going to add a new resource. It's going to be a formula. We're going to call it formatted current link. And then this is going to be a text type. And then the next part I'm going to paste in, I've done this already. We're not going to go through building this from scratch because it's kind of a little bit heavy on the HTML/rich text side. This is on our website too. So if you're like, man, how did he know that? Like, that's crazy. This guy must be hella smart. I'm not that. I'm smart, but I'm not that smart, right? So you can just copy it off of our site like I did. You need to change some of these variables. So right here, we have loop over public links. That's my input that I'm putting in here. Basically what we're doing here is we're going to build a link using the URL that we're going to generate, and we're going to give it a name, and we're going to show the password. So it's pretty straightforward as far as like what we're generating here. Always make sure to check your syntax so your flows don't blow up. And then we're basically just going to be adding that current formatted link to the email body. So we're done there. And then finally, the last part is just sending the email. So we're going to use another action here. And this is just going to be a standard Salesforce action called send email. You can send emails however you like in a flow, but this is how we're doing it for the sake of the demo. All right, and then our body is going to be a new resource, and this is going to be like our whole email. So we're going to use a text template here. We're going to call it email template, and then we're going to basically write our template out like hello account. So I'm going to put the account name in here, and then we're going to say here are the links you requested. And then we'll just put that the text we built. So that thing down here where we are building an email body, that's that. So that's our body. Then we're going to put a subject and it's like requested link or documents. And then the latter part of this is all kind of personal preference, except for at least two things. You need to send it to somebody. And in this case, I'm just going to send it to myself. Or you can pass it a collection of email addresses, or you can create your own thing. That's all up to you. And the final thing is, since we have that kind of crazy rich text formatting in our template, we need to have this rich text body be true, or else it'll send it to us with all those like break tags in it. So we don't want that. It's going to look ugly. So we just said rich text format equals true. Now we're done. I'm going to click save, and we're just going to call this send public links from account. The final step is going to be to go to the account and actually create the action. So I'm on the account object manager setup page. I'm going to click button links and actions, and I'm going to click new action. In here, I can click flow. Oh, I need to activate it first. Sorry. I need to activate this flow or it's not going to show up. So let me go back and forth. So now when we go to flow, we should see that flow in here. Not lightning node component. Send public links from account. And then here, I'm just going to say send links. That's my name for my action. And then save. And then finally, what I'll have to do is I will need to go back to my Lightning record page and put it on the page. This is all just Salesforce configuration stuff, but it is kind of cool to be able to easily do this once you have your flow in place. I prefer to use like dynamic buttons. So if you're not familiar with what I'm doing here, this is the dynamic button UI. Sorry, choking on water. This is the dynamic button UI. And if you don't have this up, it'll tell you, hey, you can upgrade. So if you're like, how did you do this? This is way too easy. That's what it is. If you click add action, we can find our send links. Quick action, then click done. It's going to show up there. We're going to save it. And then we're going to go back to Atmos Energy Corp and we're going to refresh, and our button should be right at the top. So I'm going to click send links. It's going to give me my little thing that says, hey, when you click next, it'll send an email that sends links to this account. Click next, and then we're going to hop over to my email, which is very cluttered. So don't judge me. But oh, there's an email that says our content's been viewed. That's nice. You can see all here that all the content has been viewed. That's great. Of course. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. So FileViewer demo, that's me. Hello, Atmos Energy Corporation. Here are the links you requested, and here's all the links. They all have passwords. If we wanted to say, look at the company goal tracking sheet, I could click that link, and it's going to ask me for that password. Right here, we're sharing passwords in the email. It's not the best to do that for various obvious reasons that we could talk to you about if you wanted to later offline. But you can see that the password does work. You can share those via whatever means you like. But once they have them, only the people with the passwords can open the links. Otherwise, they would be openable from anywhere. So this is really great because now what we've done is we've saved, we're able to send an email that had 4 pretty big documents in it. We were able to password protect it, so it's very specific on who gets to see the documents. We're not asking our clients to store a bunch of extra data on their system. And then if for some reason we do need to say, oh crap, this is the wrong RFP, we can go back into our system in the file viewer and say, okay, well, we can go to this RFP record and destroy this public link, and then it will no longer be functional. So if we go back over to our email and click RFP response now, it should break. So now, okay, sorry, we can talk to the customer, say, hey, we sent you the wrong RFP. We'll send you a new link in a second. So you get that ultimate kind of control over what your clients are seeing. You also get the content delivery has been viewed. So this is something that happens anytime someone looks at stuff, it tells you what it is. That's pretty great. So the last part I want to talk about is, now that we know we can build a flow here that does something pretty cool with public links without having to go into the minutia of FileViewer and build all those links. What happens when we have something that's not on a record that we want to send to customers based off of certain types, or like record types or pick list fields or types of business processes we have? So we're going to go to this FileViewer search tab that I've built. In here, we're going to basically see 6 documents. These 6 documents all have a tag called op type. They are all meant to be sent to ops when they're created that are based on a certain, or that based on the opportunities type. So we have 4 types. We have new customer, we have downgrade, replacement, and upgrade. So we have these types of like bundles that we want to make sure a customer gets depending on how they're interacting with our company at the opportunity level. So I have a flow that I've built here. It's going to look similar in some spots to the other flow, but not in some other spots. So our first thing we're going to see is we have an email, a screen here that's saying, hey, you're going to send these documents out. We have an option for them to generate them with links or not. And so if they do want to have links, they can choose that in the screen UI. This is showing you how we can enhance that. Enhanced screen UI can be integrated into the FileViewer, the FileViewer, action. Then we're doing the same thing. We're getting the opportunity. Then we do some email building based off of the type. So each one of these is going to assign a different value to the body based off of the type of email we have. That way we're not sending like, here's your documents every time. It's a little more personalized. Then what we're going to do is we're going to get the content versions or the files that have that opportunity type. So we're basically saying the opportunity type is determining the documents we want based off of the tag we created. And this is just a custom field on the content version we created. It's nothing special other than it's just a field that we are using to tag the document as something for our business. Then what we're doing is the thing that's very similar to what we just finished. We're going to go get the links. We're going to go loop through them, and we're going to add them to the template. Although in our get this time, we have two interesting things. One of them is that we are basically going to be generating like an expiration date based on the opportunity close date. So we're saying the opportunity is closed this date. It's going to the document link is going to last for 30 days after that. So we can dynamically set that. You could have that be even dynamic based on the type. You could say, oh, okay, for downgrades, we only want them to have the link for 2 days, but for upgrades, we want them to have it for like, until they're not a customer or something like that. Maybe we don't want it then. And then as you saw up above, the screen lets you check a checkbox if you want to generate with public links. So we're taking that into account here. And if they do want that, we're going to basically use that to determine if they do or don't want passwords. And then finally, we're sending that email again. The only main difference we have here is in the formula for the current loop item. We're doing a lot more here to kind of make it dynamic. So if they don't end up generating a password or an expiration date, we don't want to put that in the email. We don't want to clutter it up. So other than that, it's very similar to the other action. So let's go back to this. We haven't gone here yet. So let's go to the opportunity for the first time, the AEC insurance policy quotes. This is an Atmos Energy Corporation opportunity. We're going to make sure that this opportunity is of the right type. We're going to change this from downgrade to something else because we want to see what happens when we have a new customer. So if we have a new customer opportunity, I'm going to click send to op type email. And since it's a new customer, I don't want to have to generate password links. We don't have to protect anything. This is just like kind of onboarding data or onboarding documentation. So I click next, it does its thing. So we can come over here and we see this. Say, hey, Atmos Energy Corporation, welcome to our family. Here's some user guides to get you started. They can click on the links and have access to those user guide documents without us having to clutter up their email, without us having to worry about sending files that may not be relevant. We have this control in our system. We didn't have to worry about sending an email that's too big and broke, so our customer never got a contact from us when they were trying to become a new customer. Lots of benefits here for sending a public link. But alternatively, if we wanted to show maybe someone who had a downgrade opportunity, and maybe they're like trying to like reduce their license count or get rid of our service early or something like that, we want to handle that just a little differently. We don't necessarily want to be like all excited that they're doing stuff. That doesn't sound the right tone. We want to make sure that they know we care about them. So we're going to send them a coupon for some services and say, hey, we're sorry to see you go, or we're sorry to see you downgrade. Here's a coupon. Please use this to we care about your business. Please use this to make sure, we care. So when I click send op type email, this time I do want to generate it with passwords because I don't want a bunch of other people getting that coupon I'm going to send to them. This is meant for just them. So I'm going to generate it with a password. I click next. And then in my email now, I will get a second different email that says, hey, we're sorry that our product isn't what you needed. Here's a coupon for free service. So you click on service coupon and it has that password protection on it. So if it does get accidentally shared out somewhere, not everybody gets our coupon for free. If we click go, this is the coupon. You see it's the same thing as before. So that is the use case demo. I'm going to hop back over to our PowerPoint presentation. So what did we learn today? We talked about a lot of stuff. I've been chatting at you for the last 40 minutes. I expect you all to know exactly what I said and be able to repeat it back to me. But if you can't, I guess I can go over what we talked about. So we learned about how public links work in Salesforce, what they can and can't do out of box, and why we should be using them instead of sending documents out to everybody we know. Second, we then talked about how if you are going to use public links or you decided to use them, how FileViewer can make them even easier to use, more functional, and just enhance your public link use experience tenfold from just installing this tool. And tenfold is a number I made up, so buyer beware about the 10x there. We built a flow to create and send public links in an email, so then you could see how with a button click we could distribute documentation out to clients without having to worry about building our own emails or copy pasting links and getting stuff wrong. It was all automated. And then we looked at a use case on how to send emails to specific opportunity type contacts based off of what we want our company to do in certain cases. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this quick webinar here on FileViewer and public links and how to make your Salesforce org into a document sharing system. And we thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us today. And we're going to leave it open for Q&A if you have any, and just kind of answer some questions. If you don't have any questions, that's also fine. Please make sure you contact us if you do have any questions and you don't want to talk in front of a big group. And if you just kind of want to do stuff on your own, we put links inside of the chat to our website and to our App Exchange listing. We offer 30-day free trials. We have Salesforce orgs. We're more than happy to help you learn how to use our tool if you want to, or facilitate any kind of demo building or POC building that you want. So again, thank you for coming, and we'll leave it open for questions at the end. We'll go through the chat. If you have questions, please put them in there. Otherwise, thanks for coming. Very welcome, Jordan. I'm trying to think of some of the questions that I might have here. So let's see here. Thank you. All right. Well, if nobody has any questions, then I hope you have a wonderful Friday and a good weekend. And please let us know if you want to talk about FileViewer more. Thank you.